Hi, this is Sarah from the homeschoolsearch.com, and today I want to talk to you about my homeschool experience. I'm a homeschool grad turned homeschool mom. I've been a part of the homeschool community in one way, shape, or another for about 25 years, and homeschooling has changed a lot during that time. So I want to go back, rewind about 25 years, and talk about what it was like for me coming out of public schools, fourth grade, transitioning to homeschooling, and then how I got to the place of choosing to homeschool for my children. So let's go back to, 1993, I think, somewhere around there. Mom, if you're watching, maybe you can leave the actual year in the comments. I'm sure you remember. I'm sure it was a hard year for you. Anyway, here we go. I initially was not a homeschooled child when my parents started raising us to that age of going to school. I was the oldest in my family, 3 children. My mother had been a former teacher. She taught in a Christian school before she had me. And she really did not have a great opinion of homeschooling in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was really a very rare thing for someone to do back then. We knew probably one homeschool family in all of those years before we ourselves began homeschooling. And I have to say, they were kind of the stereotypical, unique homeschoolers. And I did well in school academically. I was, average to above average student. But socially, it started to be very oppressive in 4th grade. The bullying started. Nobody called it bullying at the time. I just would hear from my teachers, oh, Sarah's having friend problems, or girls are so dramatic at this age, or problems like that. But when I look back now, and when I look at it from today's way of kind of looking at some of those issues amongst children, it was bullying. I was being very badly bullied. I was never a popular child, like super popular, but I always had plenty of friends and got along well with others, and I had a best friend for years and years and years. And suddenly in 4th grade, I don't know to this day what happened, but she decided she hated me, and she managed to convince everybody else, all the other little girls in 4th grade, that they should hate me too. And I literally remember running around on the playground with all 3 classrooms of the 4th grade following me and chanting at me and bullying me. And I don't know where the teachers were. It just got to the place where I went from being a very confident kid to just being so discouraged and probably even kind of depressed because I just had no one at that school. And I was only in 4th grade. Maybe there were things I could have done to help improve that situation. I don't know. I've thought about it a handful of times looking back. It's pretty much something in my past that I truly am over. I'm not still upset about it. I'm sure most of those kids grew up to be perfectly nice adults, but for whatever reason, that mob mentality was really affecting them, and it was not a good time for me. So that was why I wanted out of public school. I wanted to go to Christian school. But also there was a lot going on in my family at the time. My dad had a series of health problems that caused him to leave his job, which was he was the manager of an assembly line in a warehouse type situation. And he was having problems that probably nowadays would have been addressed by OSHA with air quality and things like that. But at the time there was none of that. And so he ended up leaving that position because of health problems and deciding the Lord had really laid it on his heart at that time that he needed to go into full-time ministry and finish his degree in Bible college and make that transition. So our family was going through that transition of a dad out of work, health problems, parents working part-time jobs to try and make ends meet, me being bullied in public school, my younger brother struggling academically in public school because he needed more one-on-one attention and he wasn't able to get that in a large classroom. And then I had another sibling. My younger sister was about to start kindergarten. She had not started yet. So my poor parents, they had all of these really big things going on in life. And I'm going, take me out of public school. I want to go to Christian school. A lot of my friends from church went to Christian school. I want to go to Christian school. But Christian school is not cheap. It's like for 3 kids, it would be like another mortgage payment. And my parents were struggling financially as it was, but they also knew that my brother and I were both not getting what we needed for different reasons in our public school. And yes, they had gone to the schools about the bullying. They had gone to the schools about the academic challenges. It was considered a good school district, but all of these really unfortunate things were happening. But for whatever reason, they realized that the problems were not either things that the teachers could fix or that they were willing to fix, and that something else needed to be done. And their first choice would have been Christian school because they really weren't fans of homeschooling. We only knew one other homeschool family, and let's just say we weren't impressed by them. Fairly or not fairly, we were not like, oh wow, I want to be just like them. It's like, oh, okay, they homeschool. Okay, interesting. But if you are realizing that public school isn't the right fit for your child and that Christian school is out of your financial reach, that kind of leaves you with homeschooling. Especially 25 years ago, there was no cyber school or small little charter schools, anything like that. Those were pretty much your 3 options. And today I would say they still remain the 3 primary options for most families. So I remember one day coming out of school in 4th grade and my mom waiting in the station wagon to pick up my brother and I. And she said, your dad and I have been talking and we've decided we're going to homeschool you. We're going to homeschool you. We're going to homeschool you. And I just thought, oh no, they want me to be weird. No, I don't want to be like the stereotypical weird homeschooler, like I'm just, all the things. I won't name them specifically because I also know, now that I've been in the homeschool community long enough, I know wonderful, lovely people who perhaps fit a few of those stereotypical items that people think of when they think of homeschooling. And I now know them well enough to know that there's so much more than that. It's really, as with all stereotypes, it's not fair. It's not really accurate, but whatever. If at 10 years old, that was my thought. And I just thought, oh my goodness, this is gonna make my life worse. Yet at the same time, I was so discouraged and lonely and exhausted from how hard that year of school had been that I was like, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, not that it was really my choice as a child, but I thought, okay, I can put up with this for a while, and then I'm just gonna hope and pray that somehow my parents in the future can afford to send me to Christian school, and I'll only have to do this for, hopefully a year or 2. So we started homeschooling. And we started homeschooling, I think, the way most people start homeschooling, which is to create a classroom somewhere in their house with student desks all in a row and a teacher's desk at the front of the room and maps on the wall and a chalkboard and a globe and nowadays computers, but not back then. And we tried to create a school in our home. And especially with my mom having been a school teacher, this felt comfortable to her as well. So she got her hands on some curriculum. I don't remember really what we used at that point in time. It was a lot harder back then to get curriculum. You had fewer choices because most curriculum companies, almost exclusively curriculum companies, were publishing curriculum for classrooms. And now that this new weird homeschool thing had started to happen, they were willing to sell to homeschoolers, but they weren't necessarily excited about it because instead of selling one, couple $100 teacher's manual and 30 textbooks per order, like you would if you were buying for a classroom, now somebody wants the teacher's manual and, oh yeah, they're not going to pay $400 for it because they're using it for one subject for one child. And they only want one student book. So there was a lot of unwillingness on the part of curriculum companies to even sell to homeschoolers because it just really wasn't practical for them from a financial standpoint. So you were doing a lot of used curriculum, just trying to get your hands on the right thing. So the choices were just much more limited. By the time I graduated, that had changed a lot, but especially in those first few years. And again, being a new homeschooler, not having the internet, because I don't think we had the internet at that point. I don't think we got the internet till I was 12 or 13. I don't know. Nobody had the internet back then. Just didn't. That's how old I am. My kids wouldn't even be able to wrap their minds around that, but whatever. Yeah, so my mom's I think she went to a used curriculum sale she heard about somewhere and probably got a catalog in the mail and sent off an order somewhere. I think there was a lady in our area who was having curriculum parties in her home, like Tupperware, only it was curriculum, and she later went on to open a curriculum store for a few years as well. So then we were able to shop there. But it was right kind of on the cusp of homeschooling beginning to take off, at least in our area. It was early 90s. I think, again, like I said, I think it was around 1993 or something, and homeschooling was just beginning to take off. So we jumped in, we started homeschooling. We had that little classroom in our basement. We went down there every day and we did school. And after a while, we started kind of like migrating upstairs to the living room. And pretty soon we were sitting around the dining room table. And then we took my mom took all of her fancy dishes out of her china hutch and filled it with curriculum because we were upstairs all the time anyway. And pretty soon, homeschooling started to change from being school in our home to being its own unique experience. And I really think that's probably the best fit for most families, but it kind of takes you a little while to get there. I think most people start off homeschooling like they're creating a small private school in their house, and then it morphs and changes over time to what's right for your family. And I think the lesson to come out of a story like that is to let that transition happen in your home. Start off doing it however you can. If that looks like a classroom in your house, that's fine. There's not a bad way to homeschool. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to have your child call you, Mrs. Jones. She can call you mom. It's okay. She will still learn respect and proper classroom behavior. But these are some of the things that we get hung up on because we think that's what makes school, and it's not. It's learning taking place. And if learning can take place as a family and as part of that bond that you're developing with your children, then I think that's something really special that should be encouraged. And we don't need to worry about the formality of a traditional classroom in our homes. We can do things our own way, and it's good and it's okay. So I was very unhappy being homeschooled. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. My siblings were annoying. I was bored. I just was used to getting up and going somewhere every day. And even though I didn't really have friends, being with other kids my own age all the time, I guess there was always in the back of my mind that hope that there would be a friend, that eventually one of these kids, we could form a friendship, and I had the hope of friends. But at home with just my mother and my siblings, I felt like I had no hope of friendships. We did have a church that we were very involved with, but suddenly I was the weird homeschooler to all of those kids, and I was really held at arm's length, I felt. It might have just been my own insecurity at the time too, because it was right on those preteen years where it's all just kind of weird anyway. I was very lonely that first year that we started homeschooling. It was a very solitary time. It was just learning to do life differently. It's like when you quit your job and decide to be a stay-at-home mom, you might really struggle with that feeling of like, I should be going somewhere. Why am I at home all day? Why haven't I left my house in 4 days? That kind of feeling. And I experienced that as a 10 turning 11-year-old, I think, that first year. And it was just really different. I didn't think my mother was smart enough to be my teacher. Even though she had taught school, she did things differently than how my teachers in school had done them. And I was sure that they must have been the right ones and she was the wrong one. Sorry, Mom. But those were things I remember, like, and I was a very outspoken child, surprisingly, right? And so I would tell her, I don't think you're doing this the right way. And that's not how Mrs. So-and-so used to do it last year. And I don't like this. And I'm lonely and I'm bored and I want to leave the house. And I just made it really enjoyable for her that year. I'm sure she was loving having sacrificed her free time and her sanity. I'm so sorry, Mom. To stay at home and homeschool myself and my brother and my sister. Not to mention all that other stuff I mentioned was going on in our family as far as health problems and job changes and finances and all of that, because you don't get a pass on all the other hard things in life when you decide to homeschool your children. The rest of life still marches on, and it can still be a very challenging season. But after the first year we homeschooled, a co-op opened in our area. And a homeschool co-op is a group of homeschool parents, usually moms, who get together and teach classes for each other's children. This made all the difference for me as a homeschooling preteen. We joined this co-op and I took one class that year. I think I took an English class, like a writing and literature class. And finally, I had friends and I had found my people. I had friends who loved to read like I did. I had friends who came from the type of family environment that I came from. I had friends who also felt like a little bit of an outsider with maybe their neighborhood friends or their church friends because they were homeschooling and other kids weren't. And I found community, and it really helped to make me realize that homeschooling was normal. It's just another way to do school. It's not this weird outside the box thing that only a few rare, bizarre people do. It really it really brought a lot of peace to my heart. But I still, in the back of my mind, was thinking, I don't want to be doing this long term. This is like, I want to have the typical high school experience. I want to have a locker. I remember being really hung up on having a locker, and I want to have graduation. I want to have all of those things. And so I was more content, and I probably was less annoying that year to my parents, but I still wasn't excited about homeschooling for the long term. And then that first year of our co-op's existence, there were a couple of kids who were seniors that year. And so I think there were only 3. So the leadership of our co-op decided to have a graduation ceremony. And it was unlike any other graduation ceremony I've been to up to that point or since then. It was not what I had anticipated a graduation ceremony should be. There were no caps and gowns, no school colors, not a commencement address from some outstanding member of the community. Instead, each graduate got up, stood with their parents at the podium, received their diploma, and the student and both parents had an opportunity to talk about their homeschooling experience. And I was so compelled hearing those 3 testimonies from kids I really didn't know because they were several years older than me, but just realizing what a positive experience homeschooling had been for them, how fondly they looked back on those memories, and how homeschooling for them had been this really good thing in their lives. It had been different than what you would have in a traditional school setting. There was no prom at the time, though there are homeschool proms now. But at the time, there was none of that. There was no football team, but there had been other things instead, other things that maybe were more centered around the family and the relationships that they were establishing together and the memories they were creating. That there had been this really good thing as part of their homeschooling experience and growing up. And I sat there and it just totally changed my heart as an 11, almost 12-year-old on the subject. And I thought, yep, okay, I want to do this. I want to be homeschooled through graduation. I don't think I really wavered on that too much over the years. As I got older, my parents were like, okay, well, if you would like to go to public school, you can. You might have we were in a different area at that point. You might have a whole different experience. I was like, nope, this is my thing. This is where I fit. I'm happy. And I was very committed to homeschooling through graduation, and I did. So I graduated from homeschooling. Overall felt it to be a very positive experience. Not perfect by any means, because I wasn't perfect. My parents aren't perfect. Family isn't perfect. Nothing's going to be perfect, but it was a really good experience and I felt very positively about it. But I also knew how much work it had been for my parents, my mother, really. Fast forward years later, I got married, had 3 kids, and people would say to me, are you going to homeschool your kids? I mean, you were homeschooled. Are you going to homeschool? And I would think, oh, yes, probably. But I'm really hoping that God will have this other option comes from somewhere that I can't foresee, so that I don't have to do all this hard work that I know homeschooling is as a parent. Because even though I had been homeschooled, I wasn't homeschooled till 5th grade. I didn't really have any idea where to start with young children who couldn't read, who needed a kindergarten experience or even a preschool experience. I just thought, oh goodness, this just sounds like not my wheelhouse. So much mess and trouble and patience with little people who don't know how to do anything. And I love my children dearly, but I mean, I had young children. I was already a little stressed as a mom. Now let's add not just teaching them to tie their shoes and speak kindly to each other, but now I have to teach them how to read. I don't know how you teach someone how to read. And then that person being a very different personality type from myself. My oldest didn't learn the way I learn, didn't enjoy the learning experiences I enjoyed. And it was overwhelming to me. I was definitely like, I knew in the back of my mind that we would probably choose to homeschool, but I just didn't have that naive optimism. But because I had been homeschooled and been in the homeschool community and heard so many people share about, you know, just the things that they go through homeschooling their kids, I didn't have that, oh, it's going to be awesome, it's going to be fine, it's not going to be hard at all, to at least give me some enthusiasm getting started. I was like, it's going to be hard, it's going to really stink sometimes, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do it right. And I love my kids, I don't want to screw them up. You know, isn't that the thing we're all thinking all the time in parenting and in homeschooling? I don't want to screw up my kids. I don't want them to look back and go, what a terrible idea, Mom, why did you do that? So we did decide to homeschool, but I wasn't excited about it. And one of the things I was really not excited about was curriculum. Was not looking forward to figuring out curriculum because I didn't realize how much curriculum had changed since I had graduated and since I had been involved in homeschooling in a more hands-on sort of way. So I just kind of thought, well, I'll do my own thing. We've got Pinterest now, right? Like I can just come up with my own ideas, and I'll come up with a different theme for every week of the year, and I'll come up with different crafts and projects and books, and I won't even buy a curriculum, and it'll make it more affordable that way. And I'll just do everything myself and get both of my older two involved at that age. And yeah, we'll just do it that way. And we did for a little while, and then it got really overwhelming and boring and stressful, and we moved, and we were renovating a house, and I'm supposed to be designing my own program as I'm doing this. It just, needless to say, it kind of fell apart. It did not go well. So I started thinking, okay, I think I need to actually go with a curriculum. We were too old for playgroups, but we were too young for co-ops. So it was kind of an isolating time for me, with my oldest being preschool and my younger ones being smaller than that. So I did what everybody does when they first decide that they need curriculum. You turn to the one homeschooler you know. I'm in over my head, I need help. What should I use? And thankfully she used a curriculum that was a pretty good fit for us. I can only imagine how stressed out I would have been if she would have told me to go with something that was not a good fit. Again, like I said, you can do so many different types of curriculum, of homeschool experiences, and I'm thankful that she steered me toward the curriculum that was a pretty good fit for us for about a year and a half. And we used that, and things went a lot better. And I felt like that curriculum really taught me how to homeschool the younger ages, what my level of expectation should be as far as how much work we completed in a day, what I should prioritize, what I should worry about, what I shouldn't worry about. It was a good fit for us. But as we got into our second year of using that curriculum, I realized that my oldest child was ahead in some things like language arts and reading. She had a real natural interest in that, and she really could have been doing work at a higher grade level and was a little bit, I don't want to say bored necessarily, but there was more we could have done in that subject area for her. But at the same time, she was really having a hard time with some of those early math concepts, and we needed to spend more time on those. But because I was using an all-in-one kind of packaged curriculum, it told me what to do every day, which was great as far as making things simple for me. But what about when she needed to stop where she was at with the math and do some extra work to really master that skill before moving on? Or what about when, I know the thing that was kind of the clincher for me as far as switching things up was we were trying to do like a different time period in history every week. That was kind of how the unit studies went. And we were moving very quickly through American history. And I felt like it was just, for my kids, it was just too fast. They're not super interested in history. They'd rather do science type topics. And I would love to just spend all the time on the history. I love the history, but of course that's not what my kids love. So I have to work to their strengths. And we just needed to stop and just take a small time in history and just really dive deep into it. And that's not how the curriculum was laid out. I realized I needed to look for something else, and I started looking on curriculum websites and going, oh my goodness, there's so much curriculum out there. How do I figure this out? This is so overwhelming. And just like reading a description of it was not helping me feel any more confident about it. I decided the only way to really do my best for my children about curriculum was to just jump in to curriculum research and to try and understand as much about as many different types of curriculum as I possibly could, even though it was scary, even though I really was not necessarily enjoying it at first. And it really started to change my mindset. Just talking to other moms about curriculum, I realized I'd stand around that, eventually we got involved in a co-op, and the other mothers and I, during break times, what did we talk about? What curriculum are you using next year? What are you using for this? What are you using for that? My child's struggling in this area. I don't know what to use. Where did you buy that? Do you have a copy I can look at? And I would even see it, I'd be teaching a class to like junior high age kids, and they'd have a little downtime, and the kids are discussing curriculum. Homeschoolers are obsessed with curriculum. We just like live, eat, and breathe curriculum, right? It's a huge part of our homeschool experience, but everybody has their own way of doing it, and there isn't one central place for us. And ultimately that's what led to starting our website, thehomeschoolsearch.com, was just needing a simpler way to figure out what my options were, to see reviews of the curriculum, to see videos of the curriculum. And I started talking to my husband about it, and he's an IT guy, so he totally knew where to start as far as putting that all together into some kind of online resource that could be free for families to use. We could find all of your different homeschool curriculum options, whether they're sold by large companies or small companies, or have tons of users, or something brand new that not too many people have really gotten a hold of yet, and to put it in one place where it can show you your choices, show you the best resources for really like looking at it, like videos that homeschool parents have created to really help you look at the curriculum, and then showing you where to go to purchase the curriculum as well. So that's how we ended up collaborating my homeschool experience with his IT web design kind of experience, and we created the homeschoolsearch.com. And I'm really excited to have this YouTube kind of component to what we're doing over on our website to help homeschool parents have more confidence in their curriculum choices, to pick the right curriculum for your family the first time, so that you aren't wasting money, so that you're not overwhelmed, so that you're not frustrated, and to find the way to homeschool that's best for you and that's best for your children. And I hope that we can help serve you in that way. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing here. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye.